Happy New Year! The Brody File is back, and so is Congress. And sorry, Mr. President, Republicans are now in charge, and they can't wait to stop the president's liberal agenda.
Of course, we're so eager, we'd love to go for the whole enchilada, if you will. Also, Mike Huckabee leaves Fox News.
The honorable thing to do at this point is to end my tenure here at Fox.
What does Huckabee's departure mean for the upcoming presidential race? The Brody File goes into dissection mode. And speaking of dissection, the Brody File's brain gets dissected. Well, not literally, but our resident brain expert Scott Black is here to give us insight into how your fingerprints are God's message to all of us. It's all about hope.
I want people to start believing that who God made them, to give them hope.
The Brody File is about to blow your mind. Next, let's go. And welcome everybody to the Brody File. We hope you had a great new year. Hey, look, before we get to anything else, let us share some of our New Year's resolutions. All right, first of all, we commit to only eating at Taco Bell once during a road trip. Normally, it is way more than that. We also resolve to save all the money we make on the show this year and use it on a new station wagon. And this is what we think we can buy with all that money. I think we can get that good deal. Finally, we resolved to give Jenny a new wardrobe and a few new dance moves during her B-Block segment because she is hip, as we know. But this week we begin with the new Congress and their New Year's resolutions. First of all, we hope that Congress resolves to play nice together in the sandbox, for sure on that. Another resolution they should have is to actually pass bills that don't drown out our country in more debt. And of course, finally, they should resolve to never lie. Yeah, right. Good luck with that one. Pinocchio, right there in Congress. But seriously, what is exactly on the plate of the 114th Congress? Republicans control both the House and Senate now, and with President Obama still hanging out at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, it looks like we're headed towards gridlock and more political fighting ahead. Take a look. Slow and steady, those are the words you'll hear often from Republican leaders on Capitol Hill, who say that after the GOP's tidal wave in November, they will work with President Obama when they can, but they're also eager and determined to dismantle much of his liberal agenda.
Of course, we're so eager, we'd love to go for the whole enchilada, if you will. I think what you're going to do is see us be smart about it and go after some of the components that need to be dealt with first.
Those components include passing a bill this week that would finally start building the XL Keystone Pipeline. Republicans say it's a job creator. Liberals call it an environment killer. Republicans also plan to try and dismantle Obamacare piece by piece. Votes on that start this week, too.
We think it's a terrible piece of legislation. We're certainly going to be voting on that if we can put either repeal or take out pieces of it, like, destroying the 40-hour work week, the medical device tax, the individual mandate.
Republicans will also push to cut off funding so President Obama can implement his controversial executive order on illegal immigration. They'll also try to stop his plans for better relations with Cuba by going after the money that's allocated for it within the Department of Homeland Security. It's leaving the White House in a spot that they're not used to. For the president's first 6 years, he was setting the agenda. Now, he's having to play defense against the GOP's plans. Republicans are about to put the president on the spot. And Tennessee Congresswoman Marsha Blackburn tells CBN News that the new Republican majority will act. And after that, it's up to the president.
What we're committed to do is a right of center conservative agenda and move it forward, move it through both chambers, and then send it to the president's desk. Then he has the opportunity to decide whether to sign it or to veto it, send it back to us.
With the Republican Party expected to press and challenge the president on numerous issues, expect Barack Obama to get out the veto pen more often than not. In just the last 6 years, he's only vetoed 2 bills, but that is expected to change in a hurry. David Brody reporting from Capitol Hill. David, thanks for that report. Great report, I might add. The White House will surely have their hands full as Republicans take control up on the Hill. But Republicans do have their issues as well. So case in point, the vote for Speaker of the House. John Boehner is still going to lead the troops, but a couple Tea Party lawmakers challenged him, and that made for a bit of a messy ride for Boehner. There were a few dozen votes against him. This wasn't a slam dunk vote. So what that shows is that this party really is split between two crowds. You have the reality establishment deal making Republican crowd, and you also have the Tea Party constitutional conservative principle or bust Republican crowd. Whew, that was a lot to say, but there are two crowds. All right, now to presidential politics. Former Florida Governor Jeb Bush has launched a political action committee, so it looks like he's probably going to get into the race and will probably make an announcement sometime in the spring. Then there is Mike Huckabee. He's announced that he's leaving Fox News, and that's code for, quote, I'm really thinking of taking the presidential plunge.
There's been a great deal of speculation as to whether I would run for president. And if I were willing to absolutely rule that out, I could keep doing this show. But I can't make such a declaration. Now, I'm not going to make a decision about running until late in the spring of 2015, but the continued chatter has put Fox News into a position that just isn't fair to them, nor is it possible for me to openly determine political and financial support to justify a race. The honorable thing to do at this point is to end my tenure here at Fox.
So if Mike Huckabee runs, can he actually be the nominee? Well, it's time for a Brody File commentary. I have one word to sum up Mike Huckabee: Reagan-esque. That's right, I said it. He really does remind the Brody File of Ronald Reagan. He has a folksy charm and a humor that can diffuse a situation and make people comfortable, even if you don't like his policies. He's hard to hate, and that's not easy to do as a politician. But you see, that's Huckabee's charm. He is a politician that doesn't act like one. He's really just a regular guy from Arkansas that likes to play the guitar, enjoy a good meal, and worship God. He's smart as can be, but comes across as just a regular guy, and not many candidates can pull that off. So Huckabee has a couple big challenges here. First of all, he has to find big-time wealthy donors who are going to pony up serious cash for a serious run. Otherwise, forget about it, or as we say in New York, forget about it. As for the second challenge, I like to call it the Gin Car Ran Cruise-torum problem. That is shorthand for all the other presidential candidates who could siphon off that evangelical vote that Huckabee needs in the primary states. So you got Bobby Jindal, Ben Carson, Rand Paul, Ted Cruz, Rick Santorum, actually Rick Perry as well. All of them are going to get a piece of that evangelical pie, so Huckabee needs the actual biggest slice to have a serious shot, and we're going to be watching. All right, when we come back, Unbroken, a hit movie, but what happened to the Christian part of this flick? John Jessup is here with that next. And welcome back to the Brody File. You know the holidays are a great time to check out the latest films, and this past Christmas was really no different. But one movie seemed to stand above the rest with Christian audiences. Angelina Jolie's biopic of Olympic runner and POW Louis Zamperini, and it raked in more than $87 million in 2 weeks. Take a look.
However dark the night, however dim our hopes.
Inbound 4 o'clock low.
The light will always follow darkness.
Keep going the way you're going, you end up as a bum on the street. You train. You fight harder than those other guys, and you win. If you can take it, you can make it. You can do this, Lou. You just gotta believe you can. Pop does. Ma does. I do.
Louis, a moment of pain is worth a lifetime of glory.
We're gonna die out here.
We're not dying!
Well, as entertaining as it looks, there were a few complaints that the film skimmed over Zamperini's Christian faith. So here to break it all down is the movie connoisseur himself, John Jessup with John's Movie Corner. John Jessup here. The movie, do you like we called you a movie connoisseur?
Whatever title you want to give me, I'll take it.
I'll give you a few other titles.
Let's keep it clean.
That's right. All right, so, well, here you are. What'd you think of the film?
You know, it was an incredible film. It was intense. I think that's the big word. It tells an unbelievable story. I think it elicits patriotism and a sense of gratitude for those who served. It was long, and I think that's what some of the critics kind of complained about. But, you know, to Angelina Jolie's credit, she's the director of the film, I do think oftentimes what directors and actors try to do is give their audience a chance to kind of experience what the characters on screen are experiencing. So 2.5 hours in a movie is a long time, but when you stack that up against what Louis Zamperini and others went through back during World War II, I think it's okay for me.
Tell me about, was this kind of true to his life? I mean, you know, I know there's a book about this, and then you got the movie. I mean, what was your sense? Did she do a good job kind of making this true to life, so to speak?
Well, yes, it follows his life up to a certain point. So the audience gets to start from his rough childhood. You remember the show and comic Dennis the Menace?
Yeah, of course.
From the beginning of the movie, it could have been called Louis the Menace because he just was a rough and tumble kid, always getting in trouble. He started smoking at the age of 5, and then shortly thereafter, he's stealing alcohol and drinking moonshine. He starts to turn his life around and get on the right track once he becomes a runner. See what I did there? On the right track, runner.
I mean, so high,
brilliant.
So up there.
So he excels as a runner. He becomes known as the Torrance Tornado. He breaks records. He then goes on to run in the Olympics. But the majority of the film really deals with his incredible survival story when he was in World War II, out on the Pacific for 47 days on a lifeboat. 2 years after that, in a Japanese prisoner of war camp, and it's just an unbelievable story where you can't help but walk away and think of him as a hero because of his will and determination to live and survive. So
there is an inspirational element to this. I mean, did you feel kind of going out, wow, I mean, he survived all of this, and it kind of gives you a little inspiration to say, hey, you know, who knows, to overcome challenges like that is pretty amazing.
Right, absolutely. I think that would speak to anyone in the audience.
Very interesting. All right, so let me ask you about the Christian faith angle.
Sure.
There's been some talk that she kind of, Angelina Jolie didn't really address that at all in the movie. Was it addressed? And if it was, how was it addressed? Or?
Sure. So there is that criticism, which I think to a large extent is true. However, I think if you look at it in terms of what the story was trying to cover, it starts with him, like I said, from childhood, and I think from the very first instance where you see anything having to do with Christianity is a scene with him and his family in church as a young kid. Now, he's distracted because he sees a pretty lady sitting in a pew on the other side of the church. You see his mother praying for him as a young child because he kept getting into trouble. And then the one scene where it really kind of resonates, I think, to maybe a Christian audience is when he makes a pledge to God that if he survives out on the Pacific, that he will devote his life to God. Now, I think the rest of the storyline, there's not much, you know, maybe that's where the criticism comes, but I really see this movie as a gateway piece. It really follows, I think, his life and his life journey to the extent of what really happened, because he didn't come to Christ until later in life at a Billy Graham crusade after he got married. So his family said they really wanted this piece to speak and reach to all audiences, not just Christians. And like I said, I think this is a gateway piece. For those whose curiosity was piqued, I think they can go back and they'll see that the seed was planted.
Thank you, John.
Hey, David, thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, when we come back, he's making headlines again. What former NFL quarterback Tim Tebow was caught doing that got some folks talking. That's next. And welcome back to the show, everybody. It's such a fun show. We love the show. At the top of the show, we talked about New Year's resolutions. Lots of people resolve, you know, to read the entire Bible in a year, or maybe to memorize their favorite passages. Well, if you need a little help deciding which ones to memorize, the Bible app has come out with a list of the top Bible passages of 2014. So here are the most read verses from around the world. Take a look. First of all, in the United States, Brazil, and Nigeria, the most popular verse of the year was Philippians 4:8. Finally, brethren, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is of good repute, if there is any excellence, and if anything worthy of praise, dwell on these things. In Canada, the UK, South Africa, and Austria, folks apparently were enthralled by Jeremiah 29:11. We know it well. Here we go. For I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for welfare and not for calamity, to give you a future and a hope. And of course, the most popular verse internationally, We love this one. Romans 12:2, quote, "And do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, so that you may prove what the will of God is, that which is good and acceptable and perfect." Well, very pretty interesting, actually. Nothing like having Bible on the teleprompter. Pretty cool. In other faith-based news, once again, a former NFL player is marred in controversy, but it's not what you think. It's been no secret now that Tim Tebow wears his faith on his sleeve. It's right out there for all of us to see. You know, got to remember he was celebrated and grilled for the so-called Tebowing. That's when he would pray on the sidelines after a touchdown. Well, now the former Heisman Trophy winner has a job with the SEC network as an analyst. Before a recent taping, an artist on the set actually snapped this picture of Tebow. We want to show you the picture, and it's leading a prayer with his fellow analyst. Of course, cue the haters. They took exception. There's the picture. The Brody File says, "Hey, stop. Poo, poo, poo. Stop it. Don't start, haters." Christian groups are supporting Tebow, saying this is a true testament to his faith, showing it's what you do off the field that really counts. That's good stuff. All right, when we come back, we'll look inside the brain of the Brody File. All right, not literally, but a Christian expert has written a book about a unique style of testing that he says allows you to know exactly how your brain works. We're going to take a look when the Brody File rolls on. And welcome back to the show, everybody. All right, so imagine if you could know more about how your brain works by simply getting fingerprinted. Well, you don't need to imagine it. It's really happening. And it actually happened to us here at the Brody File. Human behavioral scientist Scott Black paid us a visit. We like to call him the Brody File brain doc. And he tested many of our crew with something called the innate intellect evaluation. Basically, what happens is he captures your fingerprints, and boom, within 48 hours, you have a 36-page report on how your brain ticks. Have a look. You know, wouldn't it be cool to see your brain on paper? Well, here it is, the Brain Report, 36 fun-filled pages. Scott Black and his assistant Valerie came over to our Brody File home to test the crew.
Because you have this right here.
All right, so how does it work? Well, it's all about the fingerprints. They are unique to each one of us, and they form in the early weeks of a baby's development in the womb. The different designs in your fingers are connected to specific lobes of the brain. So now you can see what areas of your brain are more dominant and active. You can now get a better sense of how you learn and process the world around you.
What I can show you in the report is how God made you, your wiring. Your process, really the dermatoglyphs show two things. They show your speed of your processors, and they show the style of the processor. Where intelligence is really, now that you have a processor, you put stuff into the processor, what comes out the other side, that's intelligence, how you can process it. And so the key thing about this is what we're showing you is this how God's wired you. But there's two big E's that truly matter. They're called experience and exposure. Those two E's are critical.
That means your life experiences will affect whether you actually take advantage of how your brain is designed. All right, time to take the plunge myself. This could go viral at any moment. The brain test is going to show different learning styles, like whether you're more linguistic or kinesthetic, or if you are more of a visual learner, or maybe a logical learner. There's so much more to it, but it all happens very fast. The fingerprints are analyzed by a team in Hong Kong, and boom, 24 to 36 hours later, they have my results.
It's a one page, and it's blank. There's nothing there.
There it is. No, it wasn't blank. Scott Black delivered the results to me firsthand.
What I'm going to show you is the capacity that God gave you. I'm going to give you this innate. This is day one. You were born day one with this fingerprint.
And so, how's my brain doing?
Now, this is your learning styles. This is how you take in information. Your primary way is talk, auditory. 37%. You're very kinesthetic. I don't know if you know that. You're a touchy guy. I feel comfortable touching on the shoulder. Yeah, you and I could sit next to each other in the car and carry on a great conversation, never look at each other. You're also a hands-on type of guy. So once you can do something, it's yours.
Okay, so 36 pages. I'm going to look through it all, and you've explained so much.
Yeah.
Give me the 30-second version of my brain in this book. What is this? What is all of this telling you about
It's telling you that you're a very strong person, self-actualized. In other words, you feel comfortable in your own skin, and you're self-driven. You could accomplish basically anything at any time if you have the will to do it.
I must say the report was very accurate. It's pretty amazing considering this all came from my fingertips, nothing else.
These people in Hong Kong, they don't know who David Brody. They don't even know your name. They don't know if you're a man or a woman. They don't know if you're 2 years old or 80 years old. All they saw was 10 fingerprints.
So what does all of this mean? Is this just a nice exercise to get more information about your brain? Or is there a deeper meaning here? Well, the payoff is that the test reveals the inner potential that God has given you, and that leads to the most important commodity out there, hope.
We're living in a world today, David, where it's helpless and hopeless. Their belief systems are all skewed. You know, I want people to start believing that who God made them, to give them hope. People don't even know what that word hope means. I like to define words. Hope means your terrible situation you're in now is going to be different in the future. That's hope.
Scott Black's book on all of this out this month. It's called How Many Ways Smart Am I? You can get the book by going to www.howmanywaysmart.com. He also conducts amazing life coach seminars all around the country that are changing lives across America. That is great stuff. All right, thanks, Scott. We're back in a moment with a doggone good Oy Vey moment of the week. Well, everybody knows that the world of politics is a real dogfight, but it turned into an actual dogfight for Sarah Palin recently as the former governor went head-to-head with PETA. It's a battle that has become our Oy Vey moment of the week. All right, so on New Year's Day, Palin posted these pics of her 6-year-old son, Trig. In the photos, he's using their dog, Jill, as a step stool to reach the sink. Well, that's cute. Well, so we thought. Palin commented that her son was showing his determination by turning a potential stumbling block into a stepping stone. Well, critics, including the group PETA, which stands, of course, for the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, they released a statement criticizing Palin, saying that she had, quote, had no sympathy for the dog. Oy gewalt. Are you kidding me? I mean, everything seems to be an issue these days. The dog doesn't seem to mind. I mean, it's not like Trig is jumping up and down on the dog's ribs. I mean, this stuff kills me. Hey, PETA, by the way, please stop. Enough already. I mean, I think they should rename your group. Instead of PETA, you should be called the People for the Erroneous Treatment of All Things. That's what I think you guys should be called. Anyhow, I say it in Christian love. That does it for this week, folks. Until next week, God bless. Have a great week.